In this video, I'll once again be ranking every character in Tekken 8 from easiest to most difficult. This game has changed a lot since launch when I first made the last list, and it's aged absolutely horribly. So it's time to update this list and go far more in depth than last time. When talking about what makes a character difficult in Tekken 8, there's a ton of factors involved. Execution demands, the character's playstyle, moveset complexity, amount of gimmicks, all kinds of stuff. For this list, I tried to go at it with the main perspective of two things. One, how easy would it be to pick up this character with no previous knowledge of how they work? And then, how long would it take me to find success with this character after picking them up? These two concepts are going to be our main reference point for the duration of this list. As always, please keep in mind that this list is purely my opinion. I tried to be thorough and explain each character as much as I could, but it's very likely we'll disagree on some of this, and that's perfectly okay. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my picks, and why. I'll be down there chatting with you guys as always. Now, before we get into the list, we need to talk about my most recent gaming addiction that's been taking up way too much of my time recently, and that is none other than Raid Shadow Legends. I'm sure you've all heard of this game. With over 250 million downloads and over 4 million daily players, it's one of the biggest RPGs in the world. This game has an absolutely insane amount of content, including both PvE and PvP gameplay, with over 800 unique champions. Yeah, you heard me right, 800. If you've ever been into RPGs, this really is a must-try, and there's never been a better time to get into it. Especially now, as you can get a huge head start by using the link in the description or the QR code on screen to download the game and immediately add the legendary champion Sun Wukong to your collection by using the promo code Monkey King that's also on the screen now. This code will only be available for new players within the first 72 hours of using my link to sign up. And this deal ends on the 31st of October, so don't wait. This game is constantly changing and being updated with cool new events, like the current ongoing event, the Asgard Divide, featuring all the iconic Norse mythological characters you could think of. You can even get Loki the Deceiver for free by logging in for 7 days at any time during this event, so you'll be starting out with not one, but 2 legendary champions. So what are you waiting for? Use the link in the description or the QR code on screen now to download the game and start your raid journey. Oh yeah, and make sure to join my clan, Boogard Raid, and come play with me. Thanks to Raid Shadow Legends for supporting the channel, and let's get back to it. Okay, let's start off with Jack, first character. I think Jack is probably around here, to be honest. Jack is a character who he's a very, very fundamentally based character. You need to be like a super strong Tekken player, especially in this game to succeed on this character. I know a lot of people thought with like all the new gimmicks and like the new Gamma Hound stuff that he'd be way easier and way more like cheesy in this game. To an extent he is, but like once you learn the matchup, and to be honest, he's not a difficult matchup to learn, you need very strong Tekken fundamentals. Obviously he has a really good backdash, he has very good poking. It's like a very standard fundamental character. You'll see that when I rank the other fundamental characters, they'll probably be a little bit lower. That's mainly just because I feel like Jack has to deal with a lot of issues that a lot of other characters just don't have to, mainly because he's so big, he gets clipped all the time during sidesteps. It feels like you need to put like an extra level of like effort into your play at all times on Jack. So that's why I'd say he's like a pretty average character. He definitely has some difficulty. Jin, around here too. Probably higher than Jack. This is a really weird one. Everyone's all over the place with this character. Obviously, Tekken 7 Jin, one of the hardest characters in any fighting game, really. And coming into Tekken 8, they simplified him a lot. I have a full video on this coming, basically like explaining it, talking about how Tekken 8 has simplified so many characters. But there's not too much to say about Jin that hasn't been said already. I think people calling him brain dead are wrong. Yes, down 2 is pretty brain dead. 2-1-4 is pretty brain dead. Like he has a lot of really good tools, even like forward 4 now. But you still need to like be a very strong player to succeed on Jin, I think. I don't think you're going to go that far with most flowcharts, especially just because now, like, because he's so popular, everyone is learning this matchup. Everyone knows this matchup so much. Like there's a lot of stuff you just can't get away with on Jin anymore because literally, like, you're fighting him like every 4 or 5 games on ranked on average. Obviously, you still need the electric. And come on, if we're being real, like if you want to be a strong Jin player, you definitely do need the electric. I don't know if I can justify putting any character with an electric below average. Like that alone makes your character pretty difficult, besides this guy, but we'll talk about him later. But yeah, I think there's definitely a little bit more to it than most people think. You need a strong wave dash, watch Devil Stir. Like when you have movement like that, it makes the character so much better. Very strong movement is important. Electric, you have to play your opponent still. Like there's still not like a ton of like gimmicks or like major cheese there. I think he's about here. You could make the argument that he's here or here, but I think this is a good place to put him. June, designed to be very easy. Let's be honest, she's like a very simple character. Very little depth there. Anyone can really pick her up and understand her pretty quick. No execution, of course. Pretty streamlined game plan. Obviously, pressure your opponent, whiff punish with forward 2, can, evasion, all of her sabakis. She kind of like, characters like this kind of like play themselves, I feel. Even though she is weak, again, this has nothing to do with like viability. I feel like she's like, at her core, she's designed to be a very easy character. Kazuya Mishima. Honestly, one of the most difficult characters in the game. Now, here's the thing about Kazuya. I was thinking about this a little bit before. Because of like all the difficult characters of this game right now, specifically Heihachi, who we're going to be talking about very soon, for a second, I even felt like maybe Kazuya could go down here. Like I was thinking, do I want to put like Heihachi, which we'll talk about later, and Kazuya in the same tier? Part of me wanted to put him here, mainly just because, let's be honest, he has been simplified to like a decent amount in this game. The Demon Paw alone, or Devil Fist, makes it so much easier for him, I think. It gives him a much easier time. He's just very, very strong right now, which definitely helps. But after thinking about it, and after playing him a little bit in ranked and getting destroyed, no, I think the character is still one of the hardest characters in the game. There's so many things that like make it. Obviously, you need the electric to punish 15 frames. That alone is very important. Unlike Jin, who like, the electric's important for his kit, but like you can kind of manage without it. Kazuya, you can't. You need your electric, you need your wave dash, you need your very strong 50-50. A lot of people don't talk about it, but like having a good Mishima 50-50 is like a skill. It's not just like a coin flip. You need to be really good. Obviously, you need to work on your wave dash. You need to be really good at like predicting your opponent, changing your timing. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it that people don't talk about. And yeah, one of the most difficult characters in the game. Really no gimmicks to be seen here. When you're playing this character, you're purely just playing your opponent. It's just he's one of the most fundamental characters in the game for sure, even though he's very strong and he has very high damage. Obviously, he has big execution. All the Mishimas do besides this guy. Yeah, a very difficult character for sure. Kuma, very easy. Not too much to say about this, even despite his electric, even though you can just get it by pressing a button anyway. Kuma, there's not much that hasn't been said already. It's just free wins. You just play him in ranked. It's just free wins. He has like a million different tools, a million different matchup checks. He was pretty clearly designed to be like the casual, like pick up and play, beat your friends character. Kind of similar to, where is he? Kind of similar to Eddy Gordo, like they're very like easy pick up and play, get free wins on your opponent. They don't know the matchup, although Eddy is a lot more complicated in my opinion. But yeah, there's not much to say. He's very easy. King is an interesting one. I've been very back and forth on King. Obviously, he's gone through a lot of changes throughout the lifetime of this game. He's definitely not easy. There's definitely nothing easy about King, especially now since the nerfs. They've made him a lot more, or a lot less brain dead, I think. He still has a lot of dumb stuff. Obviously, den forward 2-1 is still stupid. The forward neutral 2 low is still stupid. But I feel like you do have to work like pretty hard on this character. Like when we're looking at like pick up and play, I feel like these two characters are very pick up and play. These two characters are like kind of, would I even be able to consider King a pick up and play character? I'm not actually sure if he is. I feel like he's one of those characters that has quite a bit more depth than other characters. There's execution with his throws. You need the wave dash now. You need to be able to do it fast out of a wave dash. Playing a grappler in this game is hard in general, especially now that they've nerfed throws so heavily. I think you need to be like a pretty damn good player to make King work. So honestly, like I think King could be up here for now. I think King is definitely more difficult than Jin and Jack in this game. That's my opinion. I hope it made some kind of sense. I could see him going, he's here or here, like at the very top of here or the very bottom. I'm gonna keep him in here for now. Lars Alexanderson is between here or here. I low-key think, because Lars is a character who I was very interested in Tekken 7. Tekken 8, I haven't really played him too much. I will say though, I feel like people kind of overrate how easy he is, at least in my opinion. Like whenever I like want to get in the mood to play Lars, I need like a day to like just adapt to his playstyle. It feels like there's Like, I feel like these characters, they seem a lot easier. Maybe it's just because, like, all the stance stuff, like, you need to know all your stances, you need to know how to use them all properly. But he's still, like, a very easy character. Obviously, there's no execution there. He's pretty standard game plan. Very simple, obviously, orbital. What is it, forward 3? Like, there's a lot of flowcharts you can do, down back 4. Definitely not, like, a difficult character by any means. I think he is definitely harder than these two. I think he'd be at the top of here or like the bottom of here. I'm gonna leave him here for now. Law, very similar. This was a character who was super difficult in previous games. He's kind of like Jin. I feel like they've made him very, very brain dead in this game, even more so than Jin. Might be a personal thing. I feel like anyone can like pick up Law within like a day or two, be like pretty successful on him. I guess doing slides still requires some execution. Not really though. All the DSS stuff is like very easy now. Just like a character who not a lot to him, I don't think. At least compared to some of the more difficult characters. Obviously you still need to play fundamental. You still like fundamental Tekken, but I'm trying to like explain it. He feels like he'd be simpler for most people to pick up. Again, not really much of any execution. A lot of really like brain dead options that help him out a lot. Nunchucks are really, really good. 1-1-1 is stupid, super stupid move. His heat in general is just so stupid. I'd say he's definitely more difficult than Lars, but he's probably somewhere around here. Maybe. Again, distincting between these two tiers is really going to be difficult, but yeah. Whatever, it's whatever. Paul Phoenix is a really hard one. Paul Phoenix is low-key difficult, and people don't talk about it. Now, a lot of people don't know this, Paul was my most played character towards the end of Tekken 7. I did Jin for a little bit, I did Geese for a little bit, and then I kind of basically mained Paul towards the end of Tekken 7's lifetime. I feel like Paul is a lot more difficult than most people say, just because of like how limited he is. Like he's a honest, like fundamental character, kind of like we're going to talk about Claudio and Shaheen, who we'll be talking about soon. He's kind of like them, but I feel like has a lot less options. I feel like he's more limited than they are. Maybe it's because his poking is really weak. Maybe that makes him more difficult in my mind. He definitely has more execution than both of those two. Max damage Paul combos take execution. Like doing the 3-2 cancel the backswing into the Death Fist, or even just jab Death Fist. Like it takes a lot of execution to do that. Not easy at all. His playstyle in general just feels a lot more difficult to succeed with in this game. I think that's mainly just because of all the other characters are just so much stronger now, and he's kind of like, he's still Paul, even though with the buffs, he still feels kind of like Tekken 7. Basic game plan, you look for a down forward 2, look for a quarter circle back 4, counter hits, you get close, you 50-50. I don't know, I feel like he's more difficult than most people would give him credit for. I don't know if I'd put him here, but I feel like he's definitely like kind of getting towards an advanced character. So yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with putting Paul there. Nina is a weird one. This character is super brain dead at first. Like, I feel like anyone can pick up Nina, learn some basic flowcharts and strings, go online and do exceptionally well with her. That being said, she does have a lot of execution. There is a lot of depth to the character, especially if you want to play her on like the competitive level. She's one of those characters who's like be sitting between here and here. I feel like just because she has a lot of execution, and there's a lot of like very, very specific cases. Even like her whole playstyle is like pressure, right? Like cancel it, sidestep 1, down forward 1 to sidestep, canceling everything to sidestep, constant like pitbull pressure. But unlike a lot of other characters who kind of get that pressure for free, Dragunov, I feel like she does have to work for it. Even though she's very broken, I feel like they put in quite a bit more work. So I think Nina can go over there. Zhao Yu, specialist character. In my opinion, the most specialist character out of any character in this game. Very, very complex. Takes a long time to actually understand her kits. Once you do, I feel like she is still like a very privileged character, especially because she has so many options, so many matchup checks. If your opponent doesn't know the matchup, like if you just like spend like a week learning Zhao Yu flowcharts and go into ranked, you're gonna decimate everyone. She's just one of those characters. But I feel like just because the sheer amount you have to learn, like I've tried picking up Zhao Yu. I want to make a video on her. And like I made a video where like I tried every character and gave my opinion. Zhao Yu was like very, very, very overwhelming for me. So I feel like she's definitely a more difficult character than average. Asuka is very easy, same as June. Almost designed that way, designed to be a very pick up and play character. No execution, very, very easy game plan. Even though she's kind of weak, it's super easy to play this character, I think. I don't even need to say too much. We all know why she's easy. That's her. She's the easy waifu in this game. Even June's more difficult, I think. Okay, Leroy Smith is probably around here, though I feel like he is. In Tekken 7, he probably would have been around here. I feel like he's definitely been made more difficult just because of the nature of the Tekken 8 engine. Now he's more of like a chip damage, like rushdown kind of character. I feel like his fundamental tools aren't as important as they were in Tekken 7. I don't know. This is a weird one. I'm not too sure. He's still like obviously pretty easy character. Doesn't really have any execution. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Leroy is pretty easy, especially now. Like he has so many. This is an underrated character because he has so many options that like people just don't really talk about. Yeah, like no execution. His game plan is like pretty damn simple. I guess poking is difficult on this character. That's like one thing. It's kind of like annoying. Getting used to his hermit stance can be really annoying. It was for me. That felt like pretty overwhelming. I guess like getting good at his parries maybe, but. Easily, I can't justify putting him up here. It's Leroy. He's pretty easy to win with. You know what you're getting into when you pick this character. Lili, very average character in my opinion, kind of around the Paul Jin area, I think. You need great Tekken fundamentals to succeed in this character. She's kind of been brought back since her nerfs back to like the more defensive playstyle, which we wanted from her. You need good movement. You need good whiff punishing. You need like good bait and punish. Definitely more difficult than average, I think. Or sorry, definitely like. Is she more difficult? I'm actually not. She could go up here. Lili players have to work really hard now, and I feel like there's also like quite a bit more to this character than most of the characters below. Can I justify putting her up there though? I love this character. Lili's so cool. I need to play her more. I think she's like around the Paul area. I think these two characters are pretty damn similar in this game, at least in terms of difficulty. Claudio, we'll do Claudio right here. Easier than average. Obviously, he's designed to be simple again. No execution to be found. Very, very simple game plan. With that being said, I do think he is like the two fundamental characters, these two. There is more effort to be put into them to win, mainly just because they don't have a lot of tricks. Like, what tricks does Claudio really have? I'm always so surprised when I see his win rate. I guess it's just because no one really plays him, so his win rate's super inflated. He doesn't really have a lot of gimmicky strings. He can't really, like, cheat. Like, I feel like Claudio's never really going to be cheating wins. I guess all he has, his damage is very high, but it feels like you still need to, like, consistently outplay your opponent to win. I can't see anyone succeeding on Shaheen unless you're a strong Tekken player. I can see people succeeding on all these characters while not being a strong Tekken player. So he's probably, like, around here. Law's more difficult, I think. I like this for Claudio. Really cool character in this game. I like him a lot. Shaheen, same story. I'm going to put them together. Although, no, Shaheen probably has a little bit more complexity than Claudio, I'd say. But, again, very similar. All the stuff I just said for Claudio applies really, really well to Shaheen. You need to completely outplay your opponent. Not a lot of tricks here, although Shaheen does have a little bit more tricks than Claudio. It's the same general thing I was talking about. Same kind of thing applies. Yeah, not a ton of tricks. You need to play relatively honestly. You need to beat your opponent. They are more privileged than, like, if we compare them to, like, a Jack or even, like, a Paul, if we're judging, like, fundamental base characters, I feel like they're a little bit more privileged. Him because of, like, his ridiculous damage, I'd say, and his stupid down back 1+2 in heat. Like, oh my god. He has the slide, which is like super obnoxious to deal with, the charge up move. They're like a little bit more privileged and a little bit more streamlined than some of these characters. That'd be my rationale for that. Hwoarang is probably more difficult than average, although he could be like at the top of here. I feel like he is slightly easier in this game. At the end of the day, he's the same as he's always been. He's kind of like, I kind of see him as like Xiaoyu Light in terms of like being a specialist character. You definitely need to put a ton of time into understanding. Because, like, you face a Hwoarang in ranked and you're so annoyed and you're like, oh, this is so dumb, he's just spamming all these strings. But then you don't realize, like, it takes a lot of time to, like, even understand what his, like, 4 stances, understand all of his 200 plus moves, most of them are useful. This isn't a character like Jin, where like you have a big move set, but you're only using like 10 moves. This is a character where each one of your moves are important for very, very different reasons. Just Frame Skyrocket, very, very important. In general, I just feel like he's gotten more difficult as time has gone on, especially since the nerfs. So that's why I'd put him there. Azucena, very, very easy character, although arguably more difficult these days, arguably here since the nerfs, I want to say. This isn't because she's weaker, but I feel like when the game first came out, she was like the brain dead character. Like she'd be here, very, very simple neutral, while running 3-2. Forward 1+2 counter hit, like high, whatever her high power crush is. 50-50s when you go into stance. It was very, very, very simple. I feel like now, because they've kind of made her more like reliant on like her stances and more like mix-up based play, she'd probably be like at the very top. Like I think she's definitely harder than these guys. Arguably harder than Lars? Could I don't know. She'd be like around here or here. There's not a big distinction, but definitely a pretty simple character to play, even though she sucks. I don't know why people are still bothering with her right now. Raven. Honestly, like kind of close to being a more difficult than average character. I feel like there is a lot of depth to this character. It's hard to say because he's one of those ones where no one really plays him, so no one really knows for sure. The parry, what is it, the one frame parry, takes a lot of skill to use. Understanding his general game plan. Okay, how am I going to get mileage out of heat? How am I going to... what is it? What is the other tool that they all use? It's the two-hit string that brings him into stance that everyone like ducks these days. I don't know. I haven't played Raven in a bit. He feels like a more difficult than average character to succeed with, although he definitely does have the benefit of no one really knowing the matchup, and he definitely does have a lot of gimmicks. I don't know. He just his whole game plan, his whole playstyle kind of strikes me as being. He's definitely not easy. Like I don't think I could call Raven an easy character. So probably like the top of here towards the bottom of here. Dragunov is probably around here, which is so crazy because he was a difficult character in Tekken 7. I feel like this is one example of like the tier list directly affecting it. He is so like simple in this game compared to before. You don't need a lot on Dragunov. You can play the character using kind of like Jin, using like 10 moves. There is a little bit more to it. He's not like super simple, but I don't know. I feel like should he be with Jin? Because like everyone sees these two characters similarly, right? Like they're both broken. They're both very, very, very privileged in this game. I almost think Dragunov is easier though, just because there's a lot. Like if you're gonna learn one of these matchups, the Jin matchup is like 1,000 times easier to learn than Dragunov. He has so many more tricks up his sleeve. All the like the fainting into his grabs in heat, his heat in general. He actually has a heat game. Jin has literally nothing in heat. Sneak 4 is still stupid. They fixed it in the latch pass. Did nothing. It's still like a really, really stupid move. In terms of execution, he has a little bit in his combos, but not really that much. Nothing more than like a Jin, like while standing 2 into double electric combo, which you guys should be going for, by the way. It's really hard to do, but that's what I'm doing now. Yeah, he's probably around here. He feels very, very, very privileged right now. But low key, I put Jin like kind of towards the bottom-ish. Like these characters are very close together. Like 2-3 spots in this tier list means nothing, so keep that in mind. Okay, let's go out of order for a bit. Who should I want to rank Heihachi. I want to talk about Heihachi. Heihachi is, in my opinion, currently the hardest character in the game, based on my, what's it been, like 7 days now, or 8 days of playing him. He's unbelievably hard. I don't think he's super weak. I think he's like mid to high tier, kind of like where every character is pretty much. He's definitely a strong character, way stronger than Devil Jin, by the way, but we'll talk about that later. But he's super difficult, way more difficult than in Tekken 7. Execution is always a big thing on Heihachi, obviously. If you're not punishing 15 frame with electric, you need that. Realistically, you should be punishing 14 frame with electric pretty consistently. Almost all of his combos, he probably has the highest execution out of any character in the game right now in terms of combos. If you want to get max damage on Heihachi, you're looking at like, what, like 5, 6, 7 just frames in one combo. You need to be triple electricing on this character for max damage. Pretty much all the Heihachis are starting their combos with triple electric now, which is, I mean, so it's kind of same with Kazuya, but even more so on him. It's even more important. You need to, Omen obviously is very important, although that is quite a bit easier to do in this game. You need the back 2 frame perfect version. You need to be very, very comfortable hitting your down forward 1 into the the frame because his back 2 and his down forward 1-2, like you can charge them up and there's like a blue spark version, right? Which is like pretty easy to do, but there's also a gold spark version, which does more damage. You need to be hitting that on this character in combos and in neutral. Way more, so he has like insane execution. That already puts him up here. His game plan in general, he feels kind of like Kazuya, but like a lot less privileged. Obviously, he doesn't have the Demon Paw. His forward 1+2 is kind of like that, but it's way weaker in my opinion. So in general, because he has a lot less tools to work with than Kazuya, I think, he relies more on like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't want to say he relies more on like fundamental gameplay, but almost, yeah, I think he almost does. Like you need to be hitting your counter hits. You need to be making sure your back fours land. You need to be making sure your normal fours land, the high counter hits. You need to be careful with your hell sweep. You need to be using your 50-50 appropriately. You need to be very careful with your forward 2 now, especially because its tracking has been nerfed so limited. It's been nerfed so much. His tracking sucks. Like his best tracking move is what, his up forward 4? And even that is like, that's risky. You're going to get floated out and you're going to die. Pretty weak tracking. You need to be managing your tokens, obviously ensuring you're always maximizing your tokens every round, always getting one. You need to be careful of how you spend it. Make sure like, okay, if I'm a couple games up and I'm about to win, should I save it just in case there's a comeback? There's like a whole bunch of things you need to think of here. Like I said, his playstyle in general just feels very difficult. It just feels like fully like, it's not the character. When you're playing Heihachi, it's just you versus your opponent. It feels like you have to work very hard. Even though he does have high damage. That's the one, he has super high damage. But besides that, I feel like he's one of the most difficult characters in the game. Hopefully that kind of made sense and it wasn't too confusing for you guys. It was a bit rambly, I know. Leo, not too much to say. I'm sorry, the 2 Leo players who are watching, I know you click on every tier list like wanting to hear something super in-depth and you never hear it. Because realistically, no one really plays this character. No one really knows a lot about this character. That's just the way it is. I feel like they're almost kind of designed to be pretty simple. Pretty streamlined offense. You do have some stance stuff, kind of like Lars. That's like the best comparison I can do. But like the character, let's be real, the character is not difficult. You have a pretty standard game plan. You have plenty of like gimmicks if you want to like get free wins on your opponent. Leo definitely gives a lot of wins. Can definitely be played very obnoxiously and very cheesy. That being said, does have good fundamental tools. Kind of like a lesser version of these two, I'd say. But yeah, that's all I got on Leo. Definitely easier than average, I think. Easier than all these characters for sure. Steve Fox is very difficult. More difficult than Kazuya, I think. One of the hardest characters to win in the game, mainly just because it's the way Steve's always been, but like anyone who knows the matchup is just like not going to press into you, and your whole character revolves around your opponent pressing into you. Even though they have given him some new stuff here in Tekken 8, he's still kind of struggling in my opinion. He's still a difficult, like a very expert character. Even like approaching, like I know a lot of people struggle. I was one of the people who like really hated him, called him brain dead because I always lost him in ranked. But like, I just need to learn the matchup. He's a character who like understanding once you understand him, you see how hard Steve players are actually working all the time. Definitely an expert character in this game. You need to be super aware exactly when your opponent's going to press. Play super into them. You need to be aware, okay, they're doing the counterplay. What are we going to do about this? How are we going to start using Lionhearts to pressure out and to force situations? Obviously, he doesn't have a conventional launcher. That hurts him a lot. Just like such a unique character in this game. He's designed to be difficult almost. Yeah, okay. Yoshimitsu. Not too much to say about Yoshimitsu. Most of it's been said already. More difficult than average for sure. There's a lot to learn on him. He is pretty privileged in this game, especially compared to other Tekken games. But super big toolkit. What is it? He has like 190 moves. 100 of them are important to his kit. You need to understand all of his stances, which, there's like technically 7. Not really, but like technically there's 7 different ones. Very big move list, kind of like Hwoarang. Even though like he's like a kind of a set play character these days, you need to learn all your setups. You need to spend time learning them. He has more fundamental tools in this game than he's ever had before, which definitely makes him more difficult. He's more of a Tekken character, just with all the Yoshi stuff on top. Do I have anything else to say about him? Has some execution. You need to be smart, especially in pro play with all your stuff. Like I know in ranked, you can just get away with just spamming flash all the time. Not going to work once you get up to the higher ranks. Like I said, you need to be smart with all your stuff. He's more difficult than these guys for sure. Although I'm kind of considering moving Raven up to him. I'll think about it. Feng Wei is a very interesting one. This is like a very, very hot take. Most people would put Feng Wei here. I feel like pretty much everyone would put Feng Wei here. I kind of want to put him here, but that might just be a personal thing. Feng Wei is one of those characters who I've tried to learn, and he feels so overwhelming because I feel like the nature of just how many moves he needs to use. Like you can't compare him to like these characters, but just like trying to pick him up, he uses like pretty much all of his moveset. Like it's all there. Like when I was doing the best move of every character, it took me so long and so much research to even give an answer for Feng Wei because he just has so much, and everything needs to be used in really, really great synergy with itself. I feel like Feng Wei is like maybe like the top of easier than average, the bottom. This is a personal one. He feels super difficult to me, way more than like other characters who like have a lot of stuff, kind of like Lars or Leo. Like he feels more difficult than those characters. Definitely relies on like playing fundamental Tekken, even though you can't. I guess the only thing hurting him, you can play him super, super brain dead. That is true. Although his win rate is a lot lower than you'd think for a character like that. And they've nerfed him a couple times at this point. I don't know. Kind of here or here is where I'm thinking. I'm going to leave him here for now. That seems right. Panda, same as Kuma, obviously. Alisa is brain dead, let's be real. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you guys. The character's fun. I do like playing the character. I've been playing her for fun, like kind of on stream sometimes. Very fun character, but let's be real. It's like insanely streamlined offense. Everything is designed to be easy for you. This character has gotten away with murder and needs to be nerfed. Kind of like Jin, both characters are like super, like have kind of streamlined offense in this game. But unlike Jin, she has way less execution, no execution. No one knows the matchup. Way, way harder matchup to learn. 1,000 times more cheese, and a lot of she has a lot of cheese, but she also has a lot of stuff that just like you can't do anything. When she's chainsawing in your face, you're just fucked. There's nothing you can do. Her hell sweep is really stupid. No character should have access to that. Her heat is really, really good. Chainsaws in general is just like such an easy thing to use. Like think about how easy it is to use chainsaws versus how hard it is to beat it. Like there's no, it's like super easy to learn. You can learn how to use chainsaws in like an hour. But then how long does it take for you to beat it? Forever. You'll never beat it because it's just, take a guess. It's just so strong right now. So yeah, I'd put her in very easy, a super easy character, in my opinion. Devil Jin, very, very difficult. Honestly, is he harder than Steve? He's around here. He's definitely harder than Kazuya. Honestly, I'm inclined to put him right there. Devil Jin is one of the hardest characters in the game, up there with Heihachi. I do think Heihachi's a little bit more difficult, mainly because he has so much more execution, but they both have insane execution. Devil Jin's made easier by the fact that he does have a 15 frame punish. That makes him a lot, I'd put him here even. That makes him a lot easier. He has like a lot of stuff that, like a lot of gimmicky stuff that helps him a lot. Down back 1+2 is really, really nice to have. What else does he have? What else does Devil Jin have? Devil Jin sucks. I've made plenty of videos on Devil Jin on my channel. I don't even think he's really worth playing right now, as harsh as that sounds, but expert character. There's no gimmicks there. There's not really any cheese. Like there's all these setups, but at the end of the day, you're left with like an underwhelming character. He does decent damage, but not honestly. Devil Jin has good damage, but he gets outdone by Kazuya and Heihachi these days. You need to work 1,000 times harder than your opponent. His poking sucks in this game, which really, really hurt him. Shit lows, to be honest. His down back 2 is kind of mid. His hell sweep is worse than Kazuya's, like, and worse than Jin's even, in my opinion. Even I've been using Jin's hell sweep a lot more. The Oki it gives you is so good. Devil Jin's does a lot of damage, but that's it. Besides that, it's not that great. No mid launcher really hurts him. You need super good execution. Out of your wave dash, you need to be able to cancel into a well-standing 2. That's very difficult to do. It's taken me like months to get down consistently. So your 50-50 wave dash is very important. What else about Devil Jin? Yeah, really just not a lot of tricks there. I feel like he kind of lacks having like a very, very quick mid counter hit launcher. Your best bet for that is like back 4, I guess, or forward 4. I feel like that kind of makes him more difficult. Doesn't really have options like that. That combined with having weak poking just makes him like so difficult. It feels like a lot of times when you're playing Devil Jin, you're just forced to like stand there and just let your opponent wail on you and just take it and just wait for an opportunity to punish and actually like play the game. He still has electric, which is good for him. Obviously very, very hard tool to use. Has execution, you need to be hitting 2 electric combos, sometimes even 3. Although not usually. I don't think you're usually doing... Are you usually doing 3 electrics on Devil Jin? I feel like it's mostly 2. That's what I always do, just the 2 electric staple. But yeah, definitely a difficult character. He's mainly up there because of how bad he is right now. Like he's just lack of options. Plus, it's Devil Jin, right? Like no one's really falling for the forward 3 cheese anymore. You need wave dash. You need to play fundamental Tekken, but very, very limited fundamental Tekken. Like compare Devil Jin to like these two. They're also playing fundamental Tekken, but they're way more privileged. No execution, way simpler. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Devil Jin. Lee is a character who in Tekken 7 I would have put here. I feel like he's more around here these days. They've done a lot to make him more simplified in this game. You can play him in a very, very brain-dead manner in this game, which you just couldn't really do before. Obviously the back 3-3. I think that's the move I'm thinking of. Obviously in Heat you get all the perfect inputs. He's been simplified a lot, but he's still... Well, he's still Lee. He's still just frames all over the place. He still fully relies on like counter hits. When is my opponent going to press? How can I exploit that? What is my opponent doing? There's still like a lot more to him than the average character. He'd be at the bottom of here or the top of bottom of most difficult, top of more difficult than average. I think that's a pretty good place for him. Zafina is average to easier than average, although I'm kind of inclined to put her in average. I feel like there is more to this character than most people think. That being said, she's very, 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 very privileged, mainly just because no one learns the matchup. She's like, what, the most uncommon character in the game. No one knows how to deal with her these days, but I feel like there is more to her. She's like a lot of stances, a lot of like very unique stuff that you need to kind of like Zhao Yu, but like a lot less. Like she's definitely like more of a specialist character than any of these guys. So I think that's like a pretty okay place for her. Not really a lot of execution, but like her game plan in general is like pretty difficult compared to these guys. I like putting her there. Victor is very easy, but they've made him... Victor is... What did I put? I feel like Victor is a character who is almost here. He might even be here now. He was always here before. I think I'd put him at the very top, bottom of here or the very top of very easy. They've nerfed all of his super OP options. That makes him a lot difficult automatically. Now there's a lot more stuff to consider. He is still very simple though. There's no execution there. Down forward 2 is like a very privileged move to have. His forward 2 is very privileged. There's more like stance stuff now, like more stance mix-ups. It's not just like, oh, spam back 1+2, oh, spam explosion. But I don't know, I feel like there's still just not enough of the character to justify putting him like here. But yeah, he'd be here or here. I think I'm okay with that. Okay, Bryan Fury, super difficult character. Everyone knows this. Character relies completely on just counter hitting you, on just outplaying you, very weak poking. He has very high execution. Obviously the taunt back 4 is very difficult to do. Taunt it upper is ridiculously difficult to do. This stuff makes Bryan hard in and of itself, but kind of just like having weak poking and being forced to like only rely on just counter hitting your opponent. That's pretty much the whole character. His lows are not that good. Hatchet's overrated if you ask me. That's we'll save that for the Bryan video. You need to put in a ton of effort, constantly just outplaying your opponents. There's a lot of execution there. Less privilege than some of these characters. Like some of these characters are equally hard in terms of like you have to outplay your opponent, but these guys have a lot more like privileged stuff. Bryan just feels like you're just playing Tekken, and he's very good, don't get me wrong. He has a lot of, like quarter circle back 1 is a super privileged move to have. What is it, 3+4, very privileged move to have. But it all relies on like you as the player. You don't really have a lot of stuff you can like cheese your opponent with, I don't think. I guess maybe Orbital, but even then, yeah, I think Bryan's like a pretty damn honest character, even though he's good. Like, thank God he's good in this game. Reina is a character who I've changed my mind on in the past couple years, I think. Or past couple months. Sorry, the game hasn't even been out for years. When the game first came out, I would have put her around here. I thought she was very difficult, but like these characters were more so. Then I kind of started thinking, actually there's a lot to this character. Like there's a whole lot of stuff you need to keep in mind. And then they nerfed her again. So right now where I'm at is kind of like she'd be at the top of here or the bottom of here. Honestly, maybe even here. I feel like with Heihachi, I feel like Heihachi's way more difficult than her. Like Reina is so much more privileged. having that down forward 2, having a waifu down forward 2 on a Mishima is so privileged. You don't have to worry about any execution, always getting your 15 frame punish. Sidestep, you can just down forward 2. Now, she's still very difficult. I'll explain what makes her difficult, I guess. Her electric, obviously very important. She has a lot of execution in her combos. You need to be hitting 2 electrics, or ideally 3 electrics in all your combos. That matters a lot. You need a wave dash. Although the 50-50 on her matters a lot less. You don't see Reina players like wavooing in, like mixing up Hell Sweeper forward 3, even though I do. It's the 50-50 is less important. I feel like she's more simplified in the sense that she's very privileged when it comes to her aggression, which is kind of like Heihachi was in Tekken 7. Her, what is it? Forward 2, even though it's nerfed, is still a super privileged move to have. Like, I don't think any of these characters even have a move that comes close to something like that. I guess his Demon Paw is the closest thing, but this is way better than that. Still defines the neutral, still very strong for her. Her down forward 1, her poking is incredible. She took Heihachi's poking. Some of the best poking in the game. Her forward 4 is really good. What is it? Obviously all of her unbreakable throws. Her heat smash has option to a low heat smash. None of these characters have that. I don't know. I feel like it's hard to explain. I just feel like in my mind, she's slightly easier than these guys. Although you could definitely make the argument that she's up there. There's like a bunch of other stuff. I feel like so she has 2 stances. People were talking about like how difficult it is because you need to understand all of her options fully. I feel like after playing her, and keep in mind, I'm being unbiased. She's like my 3rd most played character. I play her all. She's one of my mains. I feel like there's not as much depth when it comes to her stances as most people would have you think. Most people seem to be like, oh, there's so much to understand all of her stances. I don't think it's as much. It's still a lot, but I don't know. I feel like she's slightly more simple. I hope this is all making sense. I feel like she's slightly more simple than these guys. Slightly, but still definitely an absolute expert character. I'd say she's way harder than like Yoshi, Hwoarang, Nina, King, Zhao Yu. Her and Lee could both be like arguably here, but I'm gonna put them here for now. I'm pretty happy with this. Could definitely be here. I'll say it one more time. 2 characters left, the 2 DLC characters. I don't have very much to say on these guys. Eddy Gordo, I think, is probably around average, if not easier than average. Kind of like a bottom. The bottom of average, top of easier than average. He's been made more difficult in this game, mainly just because of how much he's lost, in my opinion. I do think it hurt him a lot, losing the down forward 2 as a counter hit launcher. I think it hurt him a lot losing the, back 1-4, 3+4 counter hit launcher. Now it just guarantees a follow-up. A lot of his stuff is just like super gimmicky in this game, in my opinion. I feel like Eddy does have to work a lot harder than most of these characters once you get over all the stuff. Obviously, I just released an Eddy video. Go check it out if you want to hear more about my thoughts on this character. I feel like he does have to work decently hard in this game. I think he's about here. Lidia, similar story. I think she is actually more difficult in this game, slightly, kind of just because of how much they've limited her again. She has terrible lows, awful lows. Oh my god, her lows are so bad. And her neutral is her neutral is really weird in this game. Obviously, forward 2, same as Reina, it defines the neutral. Hers is way worse than Reina's Raiden, in my opinion. Has even worse tracking. I feel like you need to be really careful on this character. Her fundamental tools are pretty limited. I feel like her poking's kind of mid. You need to play like a very unique playstyle on her. Obviously managing every time you go into Heaven and Earth. Okay, am I going to take the +8 on the mid, which is what you almost always should do? Am I going to go for the unblockable? Even just understanding all of her stances and both of these characters, I feel like these 2 belong up here. Mainly just because of the stances. There's a lot more to go off of on these characters. There's a lot more to understand. Like, I feel like you could pick up any of these characters way faster than you could pick up Lidia or Eddy or Zafina or Feng or any of these characters, basically. So that's my rationale. But yeah, that's about all I've got for the tier list. Let me know in the comments what you agreed or disagreed with. I'm always interested in chatting with you guys. If you guys enjoyed this and want to see more videos like it, please consider subscribing to the channel. It goes such a long way in helping me fight the YouTube algorithm and work towards my dreams of hopefully one day doing this as a full-time job. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to scan this QR code or click the link in the description to support the channel.